I've been working on electric vehicles, mass market electric vehicles for the last 15 years, starting at Tesla Motors. And electric vehicles at that time and now are heavier than the equivalent gasoline cars, typically on the order of around 25% heavier, sometimes even 50% heavier. As we look at the motorcycle and off-road market, we see the same trend. Vehicles are heavier than the equivalent gasoline vehicles, and that's due just to the physics of using electric power and the current energy density of batteries. Being familiar with the weight and kind of energy density of electric drivetrains and battery systems, at Graft, one of our highest priorities beyond safety and reliability is weight. We target that all of our vehicles will be 50% the weight of the traditional gasoline vehicles. So we're going in the complete opposite direction from the industry. We're cutting the weight in half compared to the traditional gasoline vehicles instead of taking a 25 or 50% weight increase. The reason we do this is we can deliver better value to the customer, better riding experience, and better range to the customer at a lower price. So what I've learned over the years of working on electric vehicles is that the weight of the vehicle drastically increases the price. The reason for this is as we increase the weight of the vehicle, we need to increase the battery. The size of the battery is really going to strictly determine the vehicle range along with the weight. The battery is the most expensive single component in the vehicle, so if we double the weight of the vehicle, we almost need to double the weight or triple the size of the battery. We see that the customers receive benefits from this not just from the cost of the vehicle, but when it comes to handling the vehicles. With off-road vehicles, we need to load them into trucks, move them around when we're not riding, and all of this movement, the weight has a big impact. But most importantly, when you get to tricky terrain, whether it's a steep hill climb, whether it's a log pile or a rock pile or even sand, with our bike being half the weight, we're able to reposition to take another attempt at a hill climb. Or if we're in deep sand, we can simply lift the rear tire out of the sand and get moving again. And so all of these weight advantages pay off not just from the range and the cost, but from the exertion or the energy that the rider is going to spend when they're riding on tricky or difficult terrain. When we look at the weight of the vehicle, particularly for these off-road vehicles, we see typical manufacturers are increasing the weight and making the vehicles tougher and tougher every year, particularly in the UTV and the ATV markets. We see manufacturers going with larger ball joints, larger suspension arms to get the vehicles to live. We take a unique and opposite approach to getting these parts to live. We find that reducing the weight reduces the load on the ball joints. Reducing the vehicle weight means our tires last longer and we don't need to run a thick 6 or 8 ply tire. You're not going to be blowing out tires and getting flats on our ATV, which is just 200 pounds. So as we look at the electric vehicle market, particularly in the off-road realm, we see manufacturers coming out with very, very powerful motorcycles, but at very high weights. Over 200 pounds, almost 250 pounds in many cases. While this power is really attractive to customers and the weight is relatively easy to handle on a smooth motocross track, we find that in real-world conditions that changes very quickly. Once you get stuck in some deep mud and need to free the bike 2 or 3 times, that 250-pound bike becomes a nightmare. You won't have the energy to ride it more than a couple hours. With our bike being just 110 pounds, it means we're floating over obstacles. If the bike is dropped in deep mud or on a steep hillside, we can easily recover the bike by ourselves. We don't need to wait or need help from others. And so we offer a little bit lower power than some of our competitors, but when you look at our power to weight ratio, you see that our power is very competitive. These lower weights mean we do offer a little bit smaller battery pack, but our battery swapping technology allows you to ride 1, 2, or even 3 hours on a single battery, come in, spend 1 minute to swap out the battery, and continue on your ride. So whether that's stop for lunch and throw the second battery pack in and ride after lunch, or if you're doing something like a hare scrambles race where you're doing laps, you come in on your pit stop, you change batteries, and you're back out racing. In my experience, owning an off-road motorcycle is a major lifestyle commitment. Our ultralight motorcycles allow us to reduce the maintenance to a bare minimum. After rides, we typically advise our customers to pressure wash the bike, remove the mud, oil the chain, and that's it. You're done, ready for the next ride. The way we're able to enable this, though, is through our ultralight weight. Means we're not wearing our parts out. Our tire life is much better than a traditional gasoline motorcycle. Our suspension goes much longer before rebuilds because of our light weight. And wheels, tires, all of the components on the vehicle just last longer. Achieving a weight that's half the weight of a traditional gasoline motorcycle, or just 110 pounds on our factory team motorcycle, is an amazing and very difficult challenge. The way we reached these aggressive weight targets was primarily through being the only company in the market to do a billet CNC machine frame. Our frame is machined from a 6061 T6 aluminum in a single piece with no welds, no casting, and fully machined. That allows us to use the thinnest wall thickness, but also to have ultra high quality in the material with no porosity, no heat affected zones from welds, and no defects. So we have pure raw material that's perfect in every direction. In addition, we utilize the carbon fiber wheels on the factory team edition to reduce the weight of the wheels and the rotating mass down to a bare minimum. Our swing arms are also CNC machined from 6061 T6 aluminum. Again, no welds in the swing arm. Allows us to use the thinnest wall thickness, but also to have no heat affected zone from the welding, which means in those zones where parts would typically be welded, our material is twice as strong as our competitors. In order to achieve the highest reliability and the lightest vehicle weight, we've done a simple single stage reduction on our drivetrain. We have no belts, no gearboxes that can leak. Just a single stage reduction gives us the most reliability, simplest drivetrain, but also the lightest weight.